Hi everyone, Christina here. Welcome to another video at my YouTube channel and blog. Today I'm going to be revisiting a video from many years ago where I compared white gel pens. And this time I'm going to be using the white ink pen sampler from JetPens. They come in a bundle and you get quite a few different pens to compare. Full disclosure, JetPen sent these to me, so even though I didn't purchase them personally, I am going to give you my honest opinions and tell you which ones I liked the most and what I would recommend for each of these pens. So this first one is the Uniball Signal Broad. If you've seen that video from years ago, this was the clear winner for the most bright and easiest to use. And I don't know that I would keep it in this category for the rest of this video. Kind of a spoiler, but I think it works really well. But there were some other surprising pens included in this pen sampler that I really enjoyed, including this next one, which is the Pentel Hybrid Gel Grip DX. This one has a 1mm tip. So it's a similar line weight to the Uniball Signal Broad, and I found it to be of a similar brightness. Now, it didn't, looking at it on screen, I'm seeing that there are some areas that fade just a tiny bit, but I think it's very comparable to this Uniball Signal Broad and almost better in some cases because the ink flow was a little bit more consistent. You'll see a little bit later in the video that all of these have instances of skipping when you write too quickly, but I found that the Pentel Hybrid had a little bit of a smoother feel when I was writing with it. So that was one pen that kind of surprised me. I had never tried this pen before, and I thought it worked really, really well. This next one's the Sakura Jelly Roll Classic, and this one I've been using in my crafting and envelope projects for quite some time. Of all of these pens that I'm using today, that is the most fine-lined pen. So I really like it for writing in smaller letters or an address on an envelope or something like that, or very, very small details on a stamped image. I think it works really well for that. This next one, which is the Sharpie water-based paint marker, is one of the thicker line weights, and this is actually a fade resistant marker, and you can use it on multiple surfaces, not just on paper, and so it's really versatile in that way. I found that it was a little bit harder to write with, maybe because I wasn't expecting it to be so thick, but it was still a good marker. This next one is the Posca paint marker, and this is in the medium point, which is interesting because it's the thickest line of all of the markers and pens that I'm comparing in this video. So I would probably reserve this for posters or bigger projects that would need a lot, like a larger letter for it. Also, I wanted to mention that it's interesting to see what the Posca medium point is compared to like the medium point of the Sakura Jelly Roll, because they consider that a medium weight as well. So huge difference between the two. The Posca paint marker is much thicker. They do have a different version though. This is the extra fine Posca paint marker. And I did want to mention with both of these paint markers that the tip of the marker is kind of porous. It has a little bit of a scratchy texture. So depending on the surface that you're writing on, you might get some little splatters of paint. I got a few little splatters when I went to write with this Posca paint marker. And you can prevent that by slowing down and tipping the marker a little bit just so that it doesn't scratch the paper. But that is something to be aware of. So this is the Rayme fluorescent board marker. This is a 2mm as well. And this marker in particular, I almost didn't include it because it's actually not meant for paper. As you can see, all of that white, bright white color is seeping into the paper. This is a marker that works better on blackboards, glass, and acrylic, anything that's non-porous. That's what it's meant for, and that's when it will stay bright white. But I did like the look of it on this black, kind of seeping into the paper. I thought it looked a little bit like chalk on a chalkboard, so I did want to include it here. This last one is a Sakura Decorise gel pen. This one's a little bit different as well. It's meant to work on paper metal, glass, and photos. So it works on a bunch of different surfaces. And I would say, with the exception of the extra fine Posca paint marker, this is the most fine tip one that's meant to be used on slick surfaces. But the thing that's interesting about this one is that the line weight changes depending on how fast or slow you're writing. So it really varies. So I had 4 favorites for a fine line, kind of what I would use for my projects. And the projects I'm thinking of are like addressing envelopes or adding small details onto a scene or image or a stamped image, or just writing on a black surface in general. So there were 4 that I thought were my favorites, and all of them are really good. They each have their strengths and weaknesses. I would say that the Posca Extra Fine is the one that skips the least. I had no skipping issues at all, and I had a really consistent line weight throughout. It was very easy to use, and there are a ton of other Posca colors to choose from. So if you wanted to do a black envelope with lots of really colorful details on it, you could use all Posca pens and you'd have a really great result. The Signal Brad, the Pentel Hybrid, and the Jelly Roll, they all skipped a little bit, with the Jelly Roll skipping the least once you got it going. So I do like to scribble a little bit off to the side before I start using these. So like I mentioned before, the Posca Extra Fine can splatter a little bit if you're not careful. So I found that slowing down and also tipping the marker so it's at more of an angle as you're writing really prevents all of those splatters. So I think overall I would say that this Posca Extra Fine is my favorite of all of the white pens that I've shown in today's video. I think it's the one that I will reach the most for when it comes to addressing envelopes or adding details on stamped images, things like that. And I chose this one because it doesn't skip and because it has a really even line and it stays bright white. I think it's a really great result. So the overall winner for me this time is the Posca Extra Fine. Before I wrap up this video, I wanted to show you a little bit of experimentation with the Sakura Decorise pen. I wanted to see how thick of a line I could get if I slowed down, and it's actually quite a bit thicker than my original kind of sampling of writing out this with this pen. I thought it was interesting, and this particular pen has a kind of a raised appearance, and if you do it super thick like this, you can actually run your fingertips over it and you can feel the ink a little bit. So because of that, it does take a little bit longer to dry. In fact, all of these need a minute or two to dry after you've used them. So you aren't going to be able to go over these right away at all, any of them. You do have to let them dry, but this one in particular can smudge pretty easily. It's a really pretty pen. I wanted to show it on camera. It's got a fun kind of angled tip on the end. So here's the comparison of all of the different markers that I've shown today. I did want to mention that I did not show one pen that is included in the white pen sampler from JetPens, and that is the Sakura Jelly Roll Glaze pen. It might not be Jelly Roll, it might just be Glaze. And that's because that one does not stay bright white. And so for the properties I was comparing for today, that one didn't really apply. So I'm just going to show you this little example of using some of the different pens here, and also wrap it up with all of my thoughts. So like I said before, I think the winner is the Posca Extra Fine. However, if you're going to be doing only small details on your projects and you want a really fine line, the next one that I would recommend is the Jelly Roll pen. And that's because it, like the Posca Extra Fine, it doesn't skip as much, especially if you kind of scribble off on some scratch paper before moving on to your project. And it stays fairly bright white. I think it does a pretty good job. So if you were going to have 2 pens in your crafting or writing stash, I would say you definitely need the Posca Extra Fine and also the Sakura Jelly Roll. I think both of those are fantastic options. That wraps up my video for my 2017 white pen comparison. Hope you guys enjoyed. I will see you over at my blog and in my next video, and thanks for watching.